Welcome to the Women Changing the World podcast, a podcast on a mission to bring you some of the most amazing women I know who are doing incredible things to generally make the world a better place. From corporate sustainability to straight up magic and everything in between, you'll meet the real life humans who are birthing the new. I'm your host, Liz Best, and I'm here to amplify the stories and voices of women who are changing the world. Hi, and welcome to another new episode of the Women Changing the World podcast. Today, I am seriously so excited to sit down with Amber Stryker, who is the founder and CEO of Bespoke ESG, who has been working in the impact, sustainability, ESG space for more than 15 years. She's worked with brands like Disney, the Estee Lauder companies, and Ipsy. And she, most importantly, is just a human who has inspired me so deeply in how she has creatively reimagined ambition in her own life and how she has made big decisions in midlife to take on different transitions, to reprioritize what's most important to her in her life and work. She is someone who brings so much heart and so much passion for building a better future to the work that she does. It's just been really inspiring to see how she's built Bespoke ESG in a way that actually meets our in-house friends where they're at. We touched on so many different things that I love talking about, from mutual support and community to climate optimism versus realism, how to stay calm amidst regulatory chaos. There's just so many gems, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. Welcome officially to the Women Changing the World podcast, Amber. I am so excited to have you here. I feel like this has been maybe years coming and in the making. Before we get into it, I will pause and invite you. Would you like to say hi and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. Thank you, Liz. And what a treat to get to any time spent with you as a treat. And to get to be a part of this amazing podcast is really incredible. So thank you. I'm Amber Stryker, and I'm the founder and CEO of a consulting firm called Bespoke ESG. And we serve companies of all sizes with right-size sustainability support.
Amazing. Well, yes, I'm so excited to talk more about you and Bespoke. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, you mentioned Bespoke, obviously, but a little bit more about what you're up to these days, both personally and professionally. Where in the world are you? What do you do for fun? Would love to hear more about you.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes with, I think, what a lot of people are feeling these days. I've had a lot of changes in my life over the last year and a half or so. I made a cross-country move from Los Angeles, where I was for about 8 years, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is something I said I would never do. And it's where my husband grew up. And we came here to be closer to family and for some other changes in our life. And so I'm still adjusting to being in Pittsburgh. I don't feel like I can call myself a Pittsburgher yet, although it's a very welcoming community. I think everyone here is really lovely, and there's a lot of cool things happening in the city. I'm also super lucky because one of my absolute best friends lives in Pittsburgh, and that is just a coincidence. So I have 2 kids, 2 girls that are 5 and 7, and she has a girl who is 6, and they're coming over to play tomorrow. And so that's a blast. We just get to sit back and chat while our 3 girls love each other and have so much fun. And we're just like, look how much they like each other. So that's really been one of the best surprises about moving here in this big change. On the work front, I think just really we're all in the sustainability world kind of figuring out what it looks like to ride this wave of dramatic change and make it work to still do this work really well, to be sustainable in our personal lives. I think I've loved having those kind of conversations with you and all the people in GCC, because it's really challenging. It's something I'm thinking about a lot. I've had certain days that were like, I give up. And other days were like, no, we can do this. So that's on my mind a lot. And I think that crosses over a lot into how I am in my personal life, how much I give to work, how much I'm giving to my kids and my spouse and my family. And I just have not figured any of that out, but it's something that's on my mind a lot. For fun, it's been a hard season, so I am having fun. I mean, right now there's little bits of spring, and I lived in LA, like I said, for 8 years, which I highly recommend to anyone. I mean, it's beautiful and amazing, and like there's the only reason not to live there is that it's expensive. So I didn't mind having no seasons because it was like perpetual beautiful weather. But I'm getting back to having a real spring after a real winter. And today I saw tiny little leaves on a willow tree, and we've had a few warm days. And there's just something about that newness, the life like coming back, like the green. And I used to live in New York. And I used to, I think, drive everyone crazy with being like, look at this beautiful tree. Look at the buds. They're almost coming out. You know, one of my old jobs, I had these great coworkers who are still dear friends. And we had this tree that was right by our window. And I would be like, tree watch. It would be like, are there leaves on the trees? So I feel like I'm back to that. And I'm really, I mean, I don't know if that's like what I do for fun, but it has been fun for me lately to just like welcome spring and be back into this kind of different type of seasonal living I haven't done in a while.
Oh my goodness. There's so much that you shared just in that intro that I'm so excited for us to talk more about. First of all, I did not know that people who live in Pittsburgh are called Pittsburghers. That is delightful.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, they are. There's so many weird Pittsburgh things too. There's a Pittsburgh accent. I can't do it. My husband's really good at like, he's not going to like that. He's good at voices and like accents and stuff like that. I always say he and his sister should have had like their own Stryker family comedy hour. But anyway, so he can do it. I can't do it. It's this very weird, specific accent, and you hear it now and then. And there's a lot of regional terms and regional foods, and pierogies are a really big deal here. It's Lent here, and they have with Lent, I mean, it's Lent everywhere for whoever celebrates, but here, because there's a lot of traditional Catholics here, and with like Eastern Europeans, there's all these fish fries, and it's like, where's the best fish fry? At these churches have all these fish fry. I haven't been to one actually, but apparently it's a whole thing. Oh, did you go to such and such church's fish fry? They're the best. So a lot of new discoveries to make.
Oh, that's so fun. What a like fun adventure. And I'm excited to talk more about like the transition and how you came to be here. I also just have to call out this idea of like doing something you said you were never going to do. I think it's so funny when we find ourselves doing the things that we said we were never going to do. And so I'm excited to talk more about that too, and just how you're thinking about work and optimism.
You can embrace it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I like think it's so amazing how often we're like one thought away from like a totally different identity, like all these things that we hold.
Oh, I love that. That's a really good one because it's totally true. And I really love change, actually. Like I feel excited by it, but I'm middle-aged now. And so making big changes affects a lot of people. And I'm also thinking about stability for my kids. And so it's like imagining what change looks like is really different, or feels more pressure, I guess, in a sense. And so I like that thought because there's so many other ways you could take it.
Totally. Okay. I would love to maybe get started, maybe just to bring us up to date. I know our listeners really love hearing just the stories of how people came to be where we find you in this moment. So I'd love to hear how you came to be here and what's really inspiring you about what you're doing work-wise right now.
Right. So I sort of grew up in my career at a time when, for the most part, I didn't know this was a career, working in sustainability. And I was a first generation college student in Oklahoma. I'm from Oklahoma originally, and sort of grew up thinking, you know, the kind of jobs you could do were like, you could be a teacher, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, like you could work in admin. Like it's just, that's what I saw. I was from a smallish town. So I went to college, and I went to the University of Oklahoma, which is a big state school. which was great because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And there were a lot of options, but it took me a while to figure out. And I studied political science and history because I liked it and I really enjoyed it. I focused on international politics, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up working with a faith-based nonprofit for a couple of years and sort of came out of that being like, now what? And I just wanted to do work that mattered in the world. And I had this idea that working in business was business, like just sort of this like archetype of like, you're just making money for yourself. It's something I didn't know a lot about. So I went to the nonprofit route and I worked for nonprofits for a little while and ended up getting on track to going to grad school. And I got into my dream grad school, which was at NYU Wagner, which is a really great school focused on public administration. And I focused on international development. And I had lived overseas for a year when I was working for this nonprofit. I just enjoyed studying it. And I used this opportunity to get my career together of being in New York, of doing some of the stuff I didn't do in undergrad, which was like get the internship and make the connections and all of that. And it really worked for me. And I got to do some really cool internships in New York. I really loved living in New York City. And I did an internship with a UN advocacy organization. I got to like have the UN badge and like walk into the UN cafeteria. It was like I made it, I was just like,
so cool.
It was so cool. And then I found out that I thought UN advocacy was very boring. Which is also good learning. So I found out that wasn't for me. Even I was like, oh, this is something that's really important for some people to do, but not for me. And through all of this, I had this incredible capstone team. We did this awesome project in India, just met incredible people. And a friend of mine from my capstones found out about a part-time or a temporary admin role at the MAC AIDS Fund, which is the charitable foundation of MAC Cosmetics, which is now called the Viva Glam Fund. And back then it was called MAC. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to work for a company. It's temp admin. Like, shouldn't I sound fancier? And my friend was like, maybe just apply. And I was like, oh yeah, good point. And so I got the interview and I went in. It was one of those great things. So I went in being like, I don't even know if I want this. And as I'm there, I find out it's like for the international program manager for their grant making fund who is like leaving. And this is to fill the gap until they hire someone, which was like sort of dream job, And I ended up getting this temp admin role and I got advice from the dean of our school that I had a class with. Like, I was like, how do I turn this to a job? She said, just make yourself indispensable. Do anything you can. And so I did. And I really busted my ass to like do my best there. And I ended up getting to turn that into a permanent role. So that's how I got into the corporate world. And I found out I loved it. I really loved like figuring out how to do good for the business and do good for the world. I did international grant making around HIV/AIDS and women in health. Got to work with like heads of business in other countries in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. Got a lot of free makeup, which my friends still to this day say like the best time of their life was when I worked at MAC and I got so much free makeup. And so I ended up sort of really growing up in my career at MAC, and Estee Lauder owns MAC. And I got to learn so much about impact work, about business value. I worked with some incredible people, made some incredible friends, and ended up on the corporate team, which translated into when they were building out the sustainability function, I got to start being a part of that. So sort of a long story to say, like, that's how I went from not knowing what I wanted to do good in the world, and then working in the business world as well. And sort of that has grown.
That's so cool. I love what you said about the UN advocacy work too. Like, I think it's so important to know what we don't want to do. And especially when I talk to people who are in grad school or earlier in their careers, I'm like, there's a cool thing that you think you might want to do. Try it. Because even if you hate it, it's such good information.
Totally is. Yeah. It was really helpful to me. I went to a professor of mine and I was like, it's just a bunch of people sitting in a room talking about a word in a document. This seems like it doesn't matter. And he was like, it does matter for these reasons and for when they take it back to the government. And I was like, great, someone else should do that.
Totally. Well, and I love too the story of how you came to be working in like the corporate responsibility impact space. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we're at Estee Lauder, MAC, and then what unfolds from there?
Yeah, so I worked at that company for 8 years. I got to establish the Estee Lauder Company's charitable foundation, which did funding around girls' education and the environment. And so from there, transitioned into working on some environmental causes for the company and also helping build the sustainability team as they were like bringing it together under one big umbrella. And so that's where I started working in sustainability. I got to learn that, learn how to take what I knew about establishing business value and applying that to our sustainability strategy. And from there, I ended up moving to LA. And that's when I started working at Disney on their team, where I got to work on a lot of different parts of their international programs as well. And from there, this really cool role came up at Ipsy, which is a beauty subscription company, the first hire running their sustainability team. And one of the cool things about my role at MAC and my role at Estee Lauder is even though it was such a big company, it was at times of real building phases. And so it felt very entrepreneurial. We were always like building out some new program or building out how this all fits together. And if I still know a lot of amazing people who work there, and the team that was establishing like impact and sustainability as one big team was like 10 or 12 people for the whole company. Now it's like over 50. So doing that again at a smaller company was really exciting to say like, okay, let's build this from the ground up. And so I got to go lead sustainability there, for 3 years and, set some really cool targets that we reached around reducing virgin plastic, thinking about how do you pull the right levers for a small company and a very small team. And I was winding down my time there. I wanted to do a change in my career, and I was really noticing how hard it was at times to find the right consulting help that I needed. So whether that was back at Fortune 500 and we were hiring the big four for big, big dollars, it was still hard to get that custom support. Well, we just need this part or we just need that part. Or at a smaller company where my budget was smaller, finding the right support for that small team. So that's when I left and I created Bespoke to provide solutions for companies of all sizes. But sort of my favorites are to work with companies with small sustainability teams or companies that don't have sustainability teams at all. So we come in and we provide custom support for them.
I love it. It's so cool. It's been so cool to get to witness that journey that you've been on with Bespoke over the past 3-ish years and the moment that you decided to make that leap. I know we have a lot of people listening who may be thinking about an entrepreneurial jump at some point in the future, soon or far from now. I'm curious if there's anything you can share about like what inspired you to like go for it and take the chance on yourself to build Bespoke.
Well, I know a lot of people have always wanted to start a business, and I was not that person. I was never planning to start a business, never thinking I wanted to. So I was like, that seems hard. I like this, some parts of me like the structure, but it came at a time in my life when I was ready for a change. And I was also becoming a member of GCC at that time. And I've heard you talking about very recently on the podcast too, about kind of creating permission slips for people. And I think that was true for me too. It's like stepping out of a path that either seems like the prescribed path or it's the path you imagine for yourself is really hard. We've talked a lot about what it is to reimagine ambition. And that was a pivotal time in my life. I had young kids. Part of being home and working remotely for COVID is like my mother-in-law was our nanny for a good amount of that time, which was awesome. But I got to see some of what I was missing. And I was like, I think I might want more flexibility in my day-to-day work. And it was like, well, then am I not going to be a VP of sustainability? And I was like, well, do I really want that at this moment in my life? And it was a lot of thinking about what do I really want? And what do I really want to create? So, it also came from a time of like a lot of success and a lot of hard times too in building out corporate sustainability programs that I was super proud of. But I also wanted to try something new and be on the other side. So it took a lot of asking myself big questions and imagining that like things could look different and that even if you make a choice, it doesn't have to be forever. So I kind of went out and said like, let's try this, for my family. That's what we talked about. For my husband, I was like, okay, are you on board for this? Like, are we on board for this uncertainty? And he was always been a huge fan and a huge encourager to take steps like that. So it's really helpful when you have a support system to like, open up that path for you, whether that supports it. And there's so many pieces of that system, like Liz is a part of that system. GCC is a part of that system. My husband saying, yeah, go for it. Like all these pieces come together. And so I was lucky in a lot of that too.
Totally. Well, it's been such a joy and a privilege to be part of the support system. It's been so inspiring to see what you've built. Because I think, so often we build businesses in part for our past selves, and you really identified a need that you were like, I've had this problem before. I know what this problem feels like. And I haven't seen a solution yet that really solves and addresses this problem. I'd love to hear more about, for anyone who's maybe not familiar with fractional or right-sized work. I think you've put it in some very plain terms, but what that looks like and what part of doing that work now is really lighting you up and bringing you joy and helping your clients.
Sure. So I think a lot of the consulting model for bigger consulting firms is they're selling big chunks of work. And there's a good reason they're doing that. It works, it's profitable. It's a way that they can plan out over long periods of time. But on the other side, on the client side, that's not always what you need, or it's not always what you need right now. Sometimes you just need a piece of that to get you to the next piece. And I think that's especially true now when teams are having to do a lot of prioritization around, okay, what can we accomplish with the budget we have right now? I have friends and colleagues in-house who are working from budgets they have this quarter and saying I might get more on budget locked, midway through the year or in third quarter. And then I can execute on these things. And so a lot of times I feel internally, and I think we can have a perception. I mean, anyone who's listening who's worked on in-house teams, I feel will know this very fully. We can have a perception that at big companies, oh, they have tons of money. I'm this happens everywhere. It's big companies, it's small companies, budget getting unlocked, relocked.
Oh, totally. I just talked to someone a few weeks ago who was like, I haven't had a real budget in 2 years. There was this org change and this org change. And I keep spending money and no one has stopped me, but I don't know what the budget is. No one's told me. And I can't seem to find an answer or a spreadsheet.
Right. Or budgeting seasons that the fiscal year starts calendar year and budgeting seasons in February somehow. So anyway, I think in-house teams are working sometimes on chunked out time that isn't maybe their preference, and they need consultants that can be really flexible. And so we come in with that flexibility. So that might look like supporting as they're developing their approach to extended producer responsibility. And we're saying okay, we're going to get you to these 2 states and these 2 deadlines, and then we're going to help you with the broader strategy, et cetera. Or it might look like, okay, we're preparing to report for align with EU taxonomy in Europe, but it's changing constantly. And so we're still testing okay, do we actually need to do this? Do we not need to do this? And we're pricing that out for them as they go and really meeting them where they are. Or it looks like a small team of one sustainability leader who needs an associate to get them through a busy season because they cannot be the one to be collecting all the data and putting everything together. They just need some support for a short amount of time. Or, and I'm sort of describing kind of our main types of clients. And the last one is companies that don't have a sustainability team. So it's the chief legal officer who needs sort of a partial team from time to time, or a head of supply chain that we're working with to really provide those pieces of sustainability support from consultants that are experts in their field and know it really well and work really efficiently.
Wow. Yeah. And I feel it's so interesting to hear all the different ways that you're creatively plugging in a way that actually makes a meaningful difference. I know one other thing that you do that I think is very cool is help people find an expert. If they're we don't need a full-time person who deeply understands circularity or materials or whatever the specific thing is, but we do need to talk to somebody who actually understands that. It's been cool to see how you've been building out a bench of experts and people who can really go deep on super specific topics that are relevant for sustainability. But as you were saying, is when you only have a team of one, person or no team, you may not have that expertise since you only really need it for like such a small part of the time. So helping make it easier for people to actually tap that bench versus like spending a ton of time looking for the right person is so awesome.
Yeah, that's some of my favorite work too, because I can like remember sitting in that seat and being like, I need a human rights expert to answer this question. And we're like, great, talk to this person, we'll bring them in. Or we need to decide how we're going to approach X topic. Okay, we're bringing in the EPR expert to advise you. So, is this worth the time? Is it not? And that is really rewarding work for me because I, again, remember sitting back in that seat and being like, what do I do? I just need this person for whatever amount. And then we also get to work with like really incredible experts who are so smart. And in a time where I think expertise is really tricky right now because everything changes so quickly. And I think whether you're a sustainability leader in-house or someone who's been given some sustainability responsibility or someone who's trying to work in this field, if you're like me at all, you're like, wait, it just changed again. Like just the fire hose of changes is so fast. So we really need these niche expertise to like come in and advise us and give us the support we need.
Totally. Well, and on that note, I mean, even just between the time we're having this conversation and like a month from now when this podcast will be out, I'm sure the regulatory environment is going to change like again.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like in this moment of like such regulatory chaos, not only in the United States, but also abroad, how are you advising your clients to focus their efforts when it seems like it's changing every other week?
Yeah, it's really tricky. And I think the challenge for our clients is to continually update their leadership teams while not seeming like the boy who cried wolf. Because there's a lot of, okay, this is what's happening. And we want to use regulatory levers where we can for action within our companies, of course. And then it was like, oh no, it changed. Or California is currently under law review. Or, finally we're getting some clarity in the EU, but there was, oh my goodness, so much back and forth, back and forth. And so for some time, some of our advice was, hey, be ready, but be realistic. And so I think sometimes you see advice that's like, well, the best thing to do is just be ready. So like do your climate risk assessment, do all these pieces and be like ready to go. And that's probably true, but I don't know that it's like realistic and strategic every single time, depending on how much a company has already done in preparing for their own voluntary disclosure. So if you've already done a lot, great, you're good to go. But if you're a company that's newer to this or you just got this responsibility, it might be okay to just wait a little bit and see what happens. There is a risk related to that, and you need to be like talking with your legal team and whatnot. But there's also a lot of opportunity to do work that then you don't use. So we're seeing more clarity come down the pike. I would say, like, if you're in scope for the new laws in California, hold. If you haven't reported with TCFD yet, just hold right now and see what happens. If you are reporting with a lot of these other ones, you're probably fine anyway. So just you're okay. I might say if you are required under new standards in the EU, like get moving. It looks like that one is sticking put. Or if you're in New York and there's a new law coming up in New York, hold and let's watch it. And with all of that change, we've released a new tool that we've created using some AI tools to update all of anyone who is wondering this on what they're likely required to report to. And because we're really leveraging our internal expert, like human expertise with AI tools to move a lot more quickly on this. I don't know if you're like me. Some of these experts, it's just like, oh, I'm following this person on LinkedIn who like always provides the updates on EU. And it's like, this happened at that meeting and this happened at this meeting. And that is helpful. But I think it's also really helpful to have technology tools updating us on changes in real time as soon as they come up. So our new regulatory tracker is going to be updating anyone who signs up for it on what their company is likely to need to report on as these things come up. And it's tracking 14 different laws. So we'll be adding to it. I'm excited for this opportunity to leverage new types of technology to move more quickly, to also just serve our community on something that's like super challenging. So this is just something we're like giving away to whoever wants to use it. And also please use it and send us feedback if you have any thoughts.
That's so cool, Amber. This is like such a cool application of the blend of AI and human expertise, and feels like such a brilliant innovation for people who are like, I just need somewhere that I can just check that I'm not missing something, or yeah,
Mhm.
that's updated in real time with how quickly things are moving. It's so hard to keep track of all in one place. So the fact that you and your team are like not only keeping track of it, but also building something to make it easy for other people to just be like, wait a second, I was up in the middle of the night thinking about this last.
Did this change again? Yeah.
Well, I'd love to change topics a little bit. I know you already alluded to reimagining ambition, which I feel like is one of a new ambition, are some of our favorite things to talk about together. We've had some juicy conversations about that. And as you said, you've made some big midlife decisions, big pivots to balance family and work. I'm curious, how has your relationship to and definition of ambition evolved? And you mentioned asking yourself some big questions. I'm curious what's helped you make some of these big decisions in this life chapter.
Yeah, so I can think about it kind of, and I want to be honest too, because I think every time I hear someone being honest about like what happens behind the scenes, I'm like, okay, like I'm not crazy. um, so in the big picture, it's asking questions over time or kind of feeling those little pangs inside that are like, wait, is this really what I want? And starting to ask that question for me, that's a lot of prayer. It's talking to people I trust who've known me a long time and just getting insight. I think sometimes that really points me to what I'm already kind of feeling bubbling up, but feels like a reassurance of those things. So that's really helpful is those longtime friends. And then there's the day to day, like I think like that's leading to, and then, like I said, I've had a lot of uncertainty and like we've moved, we had a lot of unexpected things happen. We lived near where the fires were in Altadena and our house survived, but like just our whole community changed and the way we thought about our future really changed. And those kind of things can happen to anybody. It's like a more revealing of lack of control than like I lost control. It's like anything can happen anytime. And so that can make, and again, in a time that's really uncertain, the point I'm trying to get to is that in the day to day, I can be like, wait, should I have done that? Wait, is this the right path? Wait, what am I doing? And I think I told you like this past fall was really hard. And I just traveled too much last year and I just wore myself out in a lot of ways. And I remember on one GCC call, I was like, I want to quit. I'm not going to quit, but I want to. And there's just a lot of questioning along the way for myself, I think, over the past year and a half. And that hasn't been questioning like, is this the business I want to run? We're getting proof of concept by, our clients and how we're serving them. And we're hearing from our community like how much they love our newsletter and how the practical approach really matters to them. And so like we're getting a lot of affirmation for what we're doing and that it's working. But I think still redefining ambition and redefining like these big changes is kind of like a wave for me. And the wave is still evening out. But I think I have to keep reminding myself of like, okay, why am I doing this? What do I really want? For a while, I talk a lot about my Post-it that I had on my computer monitor, which said, I left Ipsy voluntarily. I enjoyed being there. We left on great terms. I left to start Bespoke. And I would find myself when I was like anxious or upset being like searching for jobs on LinkedIn. And I think, wait, what am I doing? And I was like, this isn't even what I want. So I had to leave myself a post-it that said, like, you don't want another job. You did this on purpose. And so just like reminding me of those things. So that's again, family reminding me, prayer reminding me, post-its reminding me, GCC friends reminding me when I think the uncertainty can feel a little overwhelming at times.
I love that you brought up the Post-it. I mean, that's so real. I feel like so many, and like I'm in this category too, so many of my entrepreneurial friends, how long after we started our business and how often after starting our businesses, we've like
Yeah.
continued to have moments of like, do I want a job? Like maybe even interviewing for the job, maybe even like making it pretty far in an interview process for a job. Like it's real. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
I still remember like being halfway through 2020, maybe when I pulled myself out of an interview process for a full-time job. And I've been like running my business for like a while.
Yeah.
I had to be like, wait, stop.
Yeah. For me, there was like some title deprogramming that took a while. I feel like that's mostly deprogrammed now. But then there's grass is greener at times, which is like before I had my business, if I was like, I'm going to protect my time on my nights and weekends, it was like, I'm not working for the man right now. And now I'm like, oh, it's all for me. Like if I'm working, it's for me. And if I'm not working, it's for me. And it's like, okay, I have to rethink what boundaries look like and how I protect my time and my mental energy and all that.
Totally. And like, I mean, making the decision to travel for work or not travel for work. It's like you're traveling for you or you're not traveling for you. And like,
it's totally true. I was just thinking that this came up yesterday because I'm trying to plan a girls' trip with a couple of friends. And one of them lives in the Bay Area. And she mentioned like the weekend before San Francisco Climate Week. And I was like, okay, I'll go to her and I'll visit her and then I'll stay for San Francisco Climate Week. And I was like looking on GCC. I was like, oh, I think they're doing a get together. Maybe I should tell them I'm coming. And I was like, stop. What are you doing? You said you were not going to do this. This does not fit in your life right now. Wait, that's not this time. And actually, once I did that, it felt really refreshing to be like, that's not this time. It doesn't mean never. It just means not right now. And then I felt really good about that decision, but I get caught up in it.
Totally. It's so real. And I think to your point too, it's like the grass is greener is real. Mm-hmm. It's real. So how do we make a habit of catching ourselves when we're looping? And sometimes the loops are helpful and sometimes they're just like old patterns repeating themselves. Like sometimes it's useful information of like, oh, maybe I really do want that thing. And maybe I really do want to like change this trajectory. And sometimes it's just like, who is that?
Totally. Yeah. I really liked when I listened to your last podcast that just came out, the first podcast of this season. Just the way you talked about running a business too, and just getting off of like the go be a girl boss and like everything will be winning. And I think it's so helpful to hear from people like that and to hear from other people who are running their own businesses who are very honest about the up and down cycles or the fire hose of different priorities that like you're deciding. Or like, I really appreciate something you said recently about how maybe you don't always have the whole strategic plan for the year figured out. And that feels so true this year when there's so much uncertainty and change to be like, I feel like we're just trying to figure out what it means to ride the wave quarter by quarter. And I think our corporate colleagues feel the same thing, even though they had to turn in a corporate plan.
Totally. I mean, I'm with you. I just so appreciate when people are willing to be like so real about like what's really happening behind the scenes and like how much less we have it figured out than I think people would often think. I actually talked to someone not too long ago who was in like a dual entrepreneur couple and was talking about them like having conversations of like, you get a job. No, you get a job. I was like, oh, yeah, I've had that conversation. Like,
oh yeah, I had that conversation recently where we were like, okay, for these several years, we're going to do it this way. And then depending on what happens, then maybe you'll take your turn or we'll see what's going on with, where we are, both of us in our journey.
Totally. I think it's like, I just so appreciate the realness of that. I feel like we've talked about this before, and certainly it's come up in the community of the pressure that there can be when you are a business owner, an entrepreneur running something to be like, everything's fine. Everything's great over here.
Yeah.
It's
don't worry about it.
Yeah. We'll be here for 20 more years. We have it all mapped out and we know exactly what it looks like. Well, I feel like in that vein, meeting this moment and how we're meeting this moment is a big theme of the podcast this season, appreciating that the world is changing so rapidly. I feel like how we balance being optimists and then also being realists when we're working on climate and sustainability work, like how do you try to balance those things on a day-to-day basis? I think it's so important to like name what's happening, but it also is like sometimes so hard to not get caught up in despair.
Yeah, it is super hard. I don't necessarily have the total answer, but I can say that some of the things that have been helpful for me, one thing that's helpful for me is the honesty. Like, and I feel like there's more of that we see kind of publicly this year than last year of just what's working and what's not. I think one of the challenges this year is that the main advice is for corporates is for sustainable people who work in sustainability and corporate is to just be like, prove the business value, prove the business value. And it's like, yeah, we all know that. That's not new information for anybody. And so it can feel like, oh, is there some new business value we're supposed to be proving that like we don't know? And it's like, well, no, it's just don't forget. And like now we're talking about ROI in this different way. And it's not rocket science in that sense. Like we know, like, and anyone who is a sustainability worth their salt knows that. So I would just say like, I don't know. I want to encourage people that if that's what you're hearing and you're like, wait, why am I missing something? Like, I would say you're not. You're not missing something. And keep going and keep doing what you can. I've also been encouraged by just talking to other colleagues, whether in-house colleagues or other consulting firms, where we are accomplishing a lot. And prioritization is really important because of budget constraints, because of honestly, like time and staff constraints, I think are even bigger than budget. And so you can only accomplish so much. That's not new either. Sustainability colleagues, anyone again worth their salt, sustainability leadership knows how to do that well. It's harder maybe, but you know how to do it. So I think like keep going in that. I've heard of a lot of people and, the work we do with our clients have proven out that there's a lot of progress being made. It may not be like we achieve net zero or whatnot, but like it's still progress and it still matters. I also really love working with companies who don't have sustainability staff because even that is big progress because these are companies that before now didn't have either the internal political will or ability to get on board to, make an emissions reduction plan, but they got asked by Microsoft that they have to have one. That's progress. And the more companies that are doing this, and as the ripple effects go out, as these bigger companies are measuring their scope 3, it's going to have a big impact. It's taking time. It doesn't feel rah. It feels like a slog. And I think that's really challenging. But we have to find the other parts in our lives that are going well. Like, I love that you were saying on the podcast I heard recently from you, just like how much fun you're having as a mom. And like, let's also like see the bright spots. And like, if you're a parent, you're probably also having a hard time, but there's a lot of fun. And so try to focus on some of the joys that we have in life. Like, that's not a wrong thing to do, even in a time when a lot of people are suffering. It still matters to care about people who are suffering, but it also matters to be joyful in the ways that you have natural joy.
Absolutely. Like the duality is so important to be able to hold both. And yeah, I love what you said too about the progress that is happening. There's a phrase that's kind of been haunting me for the last couple of days based on a couple conversations I've had of this idea of quiet progress. Like, I think there is a lot more happening behind the scenes than we see at face value right now, but it is happening.
Yeah.
It is happening.
It is. And I think some of the progress just feels less exciting, but it's still real and it's still happening. One of the bigger challenges is that it's happening by people who are under a lot of stress and who are resource constrained in their personal and professional lives. And so even wins feel less like wins. So like when you have a win, try to like really see the win.
Totally. Well, and I feel like you already have said such like generous and kind things about GCC, and I'm so appreciative.
Oh, of course, I will forever.
You're the best. I'm so lucky. But I think it's like to this vein, like one, I think celebrating the wins is so important. But I also think that building real relationships where we can like source mutual support and be witnessed in the things that we're working on and the wins that we're having is something that like I think is so important. to how we do this work. And I'm curious if you could share how, I know you're part of numerous communities, but how like being part of community and how really leaning into support from others has been helpful for you, both in your entrepreneurial journey and like in meeting this moment.
Yeah, it has been huge for me to be a part of communities, especially as an entrepreneur, but also just in this in the work that we do. I think one of the coolest things about doing sustainability and impact work is that we do it because we want to. And so even though the job is hard and we all want a break and a vacation and whatever else, it feels like you're on a team with these people because we're all working toward this goal in disparate ways, but we're all working toward this goal together. And so that's super encouraging to me, and getting a chance to talk to people and be encouraged by what they're accomplishing is really powerful. Additionally, finding the right time to ask for help has been really great. I think being in GCC for 3 years, this probably even took a while, but now I'm like, that's like in my mind. I'm like, oh, I'm launching this thing. I have to tell GCC, or I have this question. I have to go ask them, because it's people who want to help and want to answer. I mean, you've always been that way, Liz, of course, but you cultivate just that type of community. I think that's true broadly. Like there's a lot of people who want to help and want to like add to the things that we're all working toward. So I think that's exciting. I think the most challenging part is making the time for it, which I think we all feel. There's so many great events in GCC and I'm not able to go to many of them, but like just when one aligns and I'm like, yes, I have that time. And it's like so joyful to get to like get on a Zoom with these great people and learn about whatever cool topic we're learning about, or just hear about how someone like accomplished something amazing. So making the time for it when you can, I think is important. And then asking for help when you need it.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And I feel like it's so common. I have so many conversations with people who are like joining or thinking about joining. And I think the generosity comes so naturally to people who are members, who are in our orbit. Asking for help and building that practice can be such a muscle. I know for me, that's been such a muscle to like get better at, okay, how can I like make this easier? Who can I ask for help? And so I love hearing what you said about how you built that muscle for yourself of knowing when there's people who can help if you just reach out and ask.
And let me add to that I think the other helpful piece is you should follow up when you might say this a better way than me. But the tools that I feel like are provided in GCC, or like the sessions that you're creating that help us think about how and when to ask for help, the tangible pieces of those too, to help you like get to where you want to be, are really helpful for me, because sometimes it really helps like funnel what I'm thinking, or, you know, what our strategy is, into more tangible questions, perhaps, or requests that make a lot of sense or try to make more sense to other people. I don't know. How would you describe that? Because I feel like you're really good at that. Like you create sessions that make people think that way, or make me think that way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, I think it's so often it's like making the time to get clear on like what your desire is, and then like translating that into a baby step and like an ask. Like it's like, how do we honor what's coming up and coming through for you? And then also have space and accountability for like, okay, so now what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so helpful.
Thank you. I mean, getting into that practice has like completely changed my life. Like none of this would be here if I didn't have that practice. And I feel like I can totally always tell when I'm getting out of practice with that for myself, because it's like there's all sorts of stuff, overwhelm or anxiety or discontent. It like starts whispering through. And it's usually a good sign that it's time to sit down and reflect.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you so much for that reflection. I could talk to you for hours. I am lucky I get to spend so much time with you. Before we wrap up, there's a couple like quick hit questions I'd love to ask.
Okay.
What advice do you wish that you could give young Amber, or yesterday Amber, or some past version of you?
So I don't have many regrets, which is a joy. And I got to do a lot of cool things in my younger life. When things weren't going the way I thought, I got to do like other amazing things, which is a real blessing. So this is a little perhaps controversial, but it's just true. I would have told my younger self to start trying to have kids sooner. And I think that it's still something we don't have control over. And, I struggled with infertility for some time. But I think it's also something I've seen a lot of people struggle with. And so you never know, could have worked out the exact same. And there's a lot of things out of your control, but that's what I probably not necessarily regret, but I'm like, oh, if I knew what I knew now, that I might do that a little differently.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I hear what you're saying in terms of like if it's controversial, but I also am like, it's true for you and that's important.
Yeah.
And if only we had perfect vision into what the future would look like, right?
Yeah. And yet I ended up with 2 amazing kids and I'm super happy.
I love it. And that can still be true.
Yeah.
What's on your Post-it today? I'm guessing that you maybe retired or not retired your stop applying for jobs Post-it.
That Post-it is gone. I still don't have my full computer set up. I'm not don't have all my stuff yet from our move. So I'm on my laptop, which doesn't have a good Post-it place. And you've inspired me that I probably should get a new Post-it. I'll tell you something I've been thinking a lot about lately. This is more from my spiritual practice. And I've been thinking a lot about liturgy, which is in the Christian religion, like written prayers that are usually said together in a community. And so I've been reading a lot of those, and those have been helping me in times when I don't know what to pray. I feel like I don't, especially I think in times of unprecedented times, which is I know an oversaid word, but it feels like, what do I even, how do we get to anything better? And so different liturgies have been really helpful to me. So yeah, I think that's what I've been looking to a lot.
Is there one in particular or one message in particular that stands out to you?
A good liturgy that it's been helpful to me, and especially when I think about this work we're doing. It says, Creator God, we enjoy the abundant fruits of the earth, yet we acknowledge that we in the developed world have often wasted the gifts of the earth, taking more than our share, leaving our sisters and brothers in other places in poverty and need. Renew our minds and transform us into servants of the earth, so that her richness and bounty will sustain not only us, but generations to come after us.
Oh my goodness, that's going to make me cry. That's so beautiful, Amber. Thank you for sharing.
I didn't write it. It's from the Canadian Anglican Church.
What beautiful words. Thank you. What a gift and so apropos for this moment. Because this is the Women Changing the World podcast. If you could change one thing about the world right now, what one thing would you most want to change?
It's hard right now to choose only one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I just think that if we could end conflict and war, obviously world peace, no big deal, but it's just so heartbreaking and scary. I think we're all scared, and this will be airing a little bit later. So I'll hope that by this time that the conflict in Iran and many other conflicts happening around the world would see more peace.
Yes, I am so here to hold the vision for peace alongside you. It's hard to think about anything else with what's happening now.
Yeah.
Well, where are the best places for people to find you and follow you and keep up with you and get your great new AI tool, among other things?
BespokeESG.com. Check us out. You can so we have a newsletter called the Sustainability Insider that's just really practical, about monthly, maybe a little less. So we're not in your inbox too much. So that's the best way. Sign up for a newsletter. You'll get all the most recent news. But at our website, you can see the newsletter. You can see our AI regulatory tracker. And we also have some new stuff coming up. I'm really excited. We're going to do a collaboration in May with a briefing on AI responsibility, working with a lawyer who's a friend of ours.
Oh, that's so cool. And if I'm remembering correctly, are there maybe some interviews coming up in your world soon too?
Yeah. So we're going to be starting an interview series that will hopefully be our launch is that we'll have an interview series talking about AI responsibility along with a briefing paper for people just to get a really good idea of what are the punch points of thinking about AI responsibility. Obviously that will be changing probably, a month after we write it, if not sooner, but we'll keep updating. And I think it's just this last piece, sorry, I'm getting off on another topic, but it's been really interesting for people who work in sustainability and impact. There's a lot of crossover with AI responsibility, and they're advising on this topic in their companies. And I mean, obviously everyone's thinking about it. It affects human rights and supply chain. It affects our impact on the environment. It's just so much. And I think we all need to be really ready to respond with our point of view as sustainability and impact leaders.
I totally agree. I think it's like Selena Evans in GCC is the first person who pointed out to me how much our skill sets translate, like the skill set of a sustainability impact ESG person and what's needed for responsible AI. And I'm definitely seeing more and more people in my world raise our hands for putting those guardrails and principles up. So I love that you're putting together some thinking on this.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Amber. I am such a huge fan of yours. I love what you built with Bespoke.
Thank you, Liz. So fun.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us. This has been such a gift. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Women Changing the World podcast. Please rate and review the podcast wherever you're currently listening to it, and don't forget to subscribe for future episodes. You can find me on Instagram at liz.best, that's lis.best, and you can find Girls Club Collective at girls_club_collective. You can also find us on LinkedIn by searching for Liz Best, that's my name, LISBEST, and Girls Club Collective. Join our mail list by visiting the Girls Club Collective homepage and scrolling down to the bottom. You'll be in the loop on upcoming events, retreats, and opportunities to make magic with us, and you'll also receive a monthly love note from my heart to your inbox. I am so excited to keep in touch.